Welcome to Empowered by Iron, the podcast for female strength athletes by female strength athletes. We are your hosts, Dr. Kristin Lander from Fiercely Fueled Nutrition Coaching and Mary Morton, PhD candidate and weightlifter. Together, we are Empowered by Iron. Hello. Welcome to Empowered by Iron, the podcast for female strength athletes by female strength athletes. This week, our podcast is broken up into two segments, two blocks. Our first block, we're going to talk to Kristin, our fearless co-host, about her experience with her first powerlifting meet, how she trained for it, how the meet was compared to weightlifting, and kind of after meet thoughts. And then we're going to jump into an interview that we did back in February with Ms. Tricia King. Tricia is an almost international elite USPA powerlifter who has a very inspirational story. And it's kind of funny because the reason Kristin picked this particular meet to do this past weekend was because it was at Tricia's gym, and Tricia said that, they're having a powerlifting meet, and if Kristin was thinking of doing it, she should totally do it. And we got back yesterday, and yeah, let's break it down for them, Kristin. So you did your first powerlifting meet.
I did. It was really fun. It was a good time.
It was really fun.
I have frog voice right now. I apologize. I am tired, and spring in South Carolina is getting me. So what did you want to talk about?
How did you train for it? So How did you lead up? Because you still trained for weightlifting while you were training for powerlifting.
Yeah. So the plan was to continue my weightlifting training 4 days a week. I already had been back squatting every Monday and front squatting every Saturday. And so I didn't really have to do much with squats, although I did play with my technique a little bit. And then like 6 months ago, my coach had added in deadlifts for me. And just because I really wanted to work on getting stronger because I had lost so much strength being out for my surgeries. And then I added in bench because I was having some shoulder problems from my mastectomy surgeries that I really just felt like getting strong in a horizontal plane like bench press was going to help my shoulders heal. So I had just started doing these 3 lifts like all together with my weightlifting and was like, I should probably do a meet. So basically I didn't change my training a whole lot. I added, like I said, we added in bench. I guess it was like maybe 8 weeks out or something like that. And I did like 3 or 4 weeks of a Wendler program, and I didn't really like it. And so then when I decided to do this meet, Mary wrote some bench programming for me, which was awesome. And then I stopped having deadlifts in my programming. So you added deadlifts into my programming too. So yeah, that was really, so it was 4 days a week, and I had basically 2 days of squats, 1 day of deadlift, and 1 day of bench. And I didn't do any of the typical, like bench or deadlift accessories because I was training weightlifting still at a pretty high volume. But 3 weeks out from the meet, I caught a clean wrong and sprained my wrist pretty badly. So I couldn't do much of anything. I basically had a 3-week taper. I fought it for a little bit. I could squat. Back squats kind of hurt my wrist a little bit. So I was having to do high bar. And then I couldn't bench at all 3 weeks out. So that was interesting.
That was exciting. We were talking about it. We said, well, as long as you can at least bench the bar, we should be okay. You can at least total.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So that was a plan. Like, as long as I can bench the bar, we're going to do it. So, and deadlifts didn't bother it at all. So that was good. In fact, my wrist felt really good after deadlifts. So deadlifts obviously cure things. So that was really the training. And the week that it came to test my openers, we tried doing test my maxes. I tried doing some bench, and I was able to bench more than the bar. So it was on.
Yeah, quite a significant amount more than the bar, but I still don't think it was your full potential.
Yeah, I had trouble with the lockout. That final lockout was painful for my wrist. So, I just did what I could. But yeah, so training was good. You guys, if you follow me on Instagram, I had a really hard time with the long taper. It was really difficult. I'm used to training really high volume, and my volume was cut in an eighth of what I had been doing. And then I was like, well, I can do pulls. So I was doing clean pulls and snatch pulls and deadlifts. And then I started to get like a little right hamstring issue. So I put the kibosh on that pretty quick. So yeah, training was good. I had 6 weeks from the time that I decided to do the meet to the time of meet day.
Yeah. I will say, if you had been on a full powerlifting program from me, because your wrist was hurt, you did have this like 3-week taper. But if it had been a normal program that I write, you would have, tapered the week out or whatever. So it was an interesting time for you.
Yeah. Basically I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah. So fast forward then to meet day.
Yeah.
How did meet day go, and how does it compare to weightlifting?
Yeah. It's completely different from weightlifting. And I really have, not that I didn't have respect for powerlifters by any means, but I have so much more respect for powerlifters because that is a long day. And from what I understand, our meet went pretty quick because I was done lifting. I started at 9 and was done lifting by like 2:30, something around there.
And they got the medals done at like 3:15, 3:30.
Yeah.
So, which is impressive because my first powerlifting meet, they weren't done lifting until 5 or 6, and then it took them like forever, which I didn't understand, to calculate all the medals and stuff. So it was like 6:37 before we left, and we'd gotten there at 7 because it was USAPL, and so you have to weigh in that day. Yeah. Whereas USPA, you weigh in the day before.
Yeah, so. And I have to say, so I weighed in the day before, and that was really nice. I really liked that. I wasn't, I didn't have to. It was like one less stressful thing that I had to deal with on meet day, which was nice. So I basically just had to show up, warm up, and lift. And yeah, so basically I warmed up for my squat and then squatted and rested a couple of hours. The one surprising thing, I had planned out, meals in between my events, which is I'm not actually new to because I competed in CrossFit a decent amount where you'll have 6 or 7 events maybe in one day. So that wasn't anything new to me. I just kind of did what I would have done for a CrossFit competition. And but the surprising thing to me is I wasn't hungry. So that was, I had to kind of like, I'm glad I had options. So I ended up having like protein shakes and cereal and things like that. I had brought like rice and chicken, and it took me all day to eat like 1 serving of rice and 4 ounces of chicken. I just wasn't really very hungry, but I knew I needed food. The other thing in terms of nutritional strategy that I had to make sure not to do was I couldn't drink too much caffeine or eat too many Sour Patch Kids. I had to monitor that because that's...
Yeah, no sugar high.
Yeah, so I made sure to only save those things for like in between attempts.
Do you think you also weren't hungry because the night before you ate a lot of food?
I knew you were going to say that.
Look, I shared a hotel room with this girl, and she was, I wasn't lifting, so I had eaten all my meals, and this girl was just eating and eating. We stopped at the grocery store and walked down every aisle just to see if there was something she would want. And then we got home, and she's just eating, and finally she goes, oh, my stomach. And then she lays in bed till like 1 or 2 in the morning. Probably couldn't sleep also because of excitement, but her stomach was so full.
Right.
So, I mean, it could be that.
I did eat a bunch of food that, although when I really think, I don't think I ate that much. Did I really? I don't.
You did. Well, I think it wasn't the amount. I think it was just the sheer volume of it because you really hadn't eaten much that day because you had to weigh in.
Right.
Which from my standpoint, you probably could have eaten your normal meals and still weighed in under what you needed to.
Right.
Just, my humble opinion. But once you were allowed to eat, you're like, wow, I'm so hungry, I'm going to eat.
So for post weigh-in, I had my buckwheat cereal, which is like oatmeal. It's a grain-free version of oatmeal, and like bananas with like PB2, and I think there was some maple syrup in there. So that was my my post weigh-in meal. And then I had some Gatorade, and then a little bit later, I had like 4 ounces of like hamburger with like half a sweet potato, and then I had like some like really fatty paleo like granola
and fruit.
And the fruit. Then I had a lot of fruit.
And then the fruit is what did you in.
So I went to bed really full. I did, just like my first weightlifting meet. I could not sleep the night before my first weightlifting meet. I wasn't really nervous for this, like I was my weightlifting meet, but I was excited. I was just really excited. Like, we knew people that were going to be there. We had friends of Empowered by Iron that were there. And I was really, Mary and I had come up with a plan for the day, and I really saw it as like, my job to show up, execute the plan, and be happy with my performance. And so I was nervous a little about whether or not I was going to be able to execute the plan according to what I knew what I'm capable of doing in the gym. That was the biggest thing. Like, am I going to be able to do that on the platform? Because in powerlifting, you can get like really hyped up and have adrenaline. In weightlifting, that works against you. And so I wasn't really sure how that was going to help me or hurt me. And on squat and deadlift, it really helped me. Like, I think I hit a 2.5 kilo PR on both of those lifts for my third attempts, and I could have probably gone a little higher. But I didn't know. I didn't.
You totally could have gone higher, but we wanted to go as close to 9 for 9 as possible.
Right. So I went 8 for 9 because I had a little accident on bench. So this is the thing. Bench was probably the closest to snatch or clean and jerk. In terms of the adrenaline really hindered me. So I basically blacked out during bench. I don't know what happened. Like, I stepped onto the platform, I got on the bench, and then I literally don't know what happened until I got off. So luckily I made my first bench. I made my second bench, and then I think we went for a PR on my third bench. And I forgot to wait for the press command.
Well, and then you forgot to wait, and then you brought it back down. You're like, oh, I didn't wait.
Like, I realized what I had done. Yeah. And so at that time, all of a sudden, time stood still. It was like, I didn't wait for the press command. I'm just going to bring the bar back down. And then and obviously they didn't tell me to repress it. So then I just pressed it. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. And then I remember thinking, like, no one's grabbing the bar from me. So maybe they did call the command and I didn't hear it. Like, I don't remember hearing it, or maybe no one noticed. So they let me grind out this PR bench, and like my back cramped up, and I don't know what happened anyway. And obviously I got 3 red lights. So
yeah, I was expecting them to grab it from you, because it's like the ref should have said rack, because it was obvious,
because I blew the command.
So
yeah,
why let you grind it out if you weren't going to get it?
Right.
Anyway.
But yeah, so I would have to say that in terms of, everyone says, bench is the most technical, and, there's 3 commands to remember and all that. So, and unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to practice much of that because, I think from the time I decided to do the meet, I was able to bench 2 or maybe 3 times. I think I hurt my wrist on a day I was supposed to bench. So I think I only got to bench twice. So we practiced commands a couple of times, and, I've benched. I mean, obviously I've benched in my life, but never practicing a pause and whatever. So that was, I did as much of that as I could before the meet, but obviously I need a lot more work there.
You just need more practice.
Yeah.
So now that it's over and done and we're home,
yeah.
Are you going to do it again?
I think so. So I know. So I will have to have a discussion with my weightlifting coach about that. But because I do have quite a few goals for weightlifting for, this year. So, and that's what we've really been focused on. But, I really enjoyed powerlifting because it's so different from weightlifting. And weightlifting is, if you guys are powerlifters, you might not know this, that weightlifting is really dependent on the day. You might have hit some massive PRs in training and things just don't come together on the platform for a meet. It's just so technical. If something's a little bit off, you're going to miss the lift. And just even in training, like it's not just that a weight might feel heavy. It's that all of a sudden you pick up a bad habit. And for those of us that have remote coaches like Mary and I do, your coach might not catch it right away in your videos because they're not physically present when you're lifting. So it's easy to just all of a sudden have a bad habit that is preventing you from improving or from hitting PRs. And it can be incredibly frustrating, which is one reason I wanted to do powerlifting. Is not to say that it's easier by any means, but I'm a strength athlete. Like that's just my wheelhouse, being strong. And so I wanted to be able to just lift heavy weight. And so I was thinking about this actually a couple of weeks ago, and I came up with this analogy. Basically, I feel like powerlifting is this like raw primal strength, and weightlifting is a little more like a dance. And I love them both. So I feel like I want to continue to do both if I can make it work for my training and my body holds up for it.
So that was Kristin's first meet. Stay tuned so you can hear our interview with Miss Tricia King.
Today we have a guest with us. She's a 60-kilo powerlifter out of South Carolina. Tricia King is her name. She is coached by Stacy Burr, and she just competed in her second powerlifting meet and just barely missed hitting an international elite total. But as you know, our show is about so much more than feats of physical strength, which is why we invited Tricia to come on today. She has an incredible story about sobriety, cancer survivorship, and strength, and how she uses lifting and training to keep her life on track. So welcome, Tricia.
October, I'll do another meet.
So, okay. So,
all my,
so it's a minute.
Yeah, a minute, but all my openers will be what my third attempts were, hopefully. So
yeah, you'll easily hit that total.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Jillian had posted in her story about you, and I responded. I forget what I said. Something that's just like, you're fucking awesome, or you're a queen, or something.
Oh.
And then she told me that you have a really cool backstory, and I said, oh, it sounds like we could have her on the show, because we're all about people, overcoming things and building a great life from bad to good, or whatever. And then Stacy, she took Jill's phone and then sent me a video message saying that I have to do this and it needs to happen. And I was like, all right, Stacy said it needs to happen, so we're gonna do it.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, it was an interesting. I was like, Stacy Burr sent me a video.
Yeah. Mine's probably different than a lot of people you guys have talked to. I've listened to Anna's and Stacy's and a couple other ones. And so, kind of the synopsis is, in high school and middle school, I was never fat, but it was typical teenage girl stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm fat. So I developed an eating disorder and started with self-mutilation and fought with that for Probably, well, that was like I was 12 or 13, which was, I have two daughters now, so that's scary to think. Um, so I fought with that probably until I was in high school, and that's I finally like quit, like, okay, I've got to eat food. Like I'm passing out everywhere all the time. And so I finally was like, whatever, I'll figure something else out. Not that it was healthier, but I started playing like softball, soccer, kind of got like my life on track and was happy. And I don't know really where I fell off and got into drugs, but
we can get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back and why don't you tell everyone a little bit about you, where you're from, what you do for a living, and what your sport is. So just like everyone can get a good background.
I have two kids and I'm from New Mexico, but I live in South Carolina right now. I am a competitive powerlifter and I work as a personal trainer at a commercial gym in North Charleston.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you get into powerlifting?
It's been about a year and a half. It was August of 2016. So yeah, about a year and a half. One summer I went to Flex Lewis's expo that he does. It's a bodybuilding show, but it also had like a RPS meet. And I went just to get like some momcation time. And I went and I think Dana Lynn Bailey and Rob Bailey were there doing like a seminar, and like some other people were there. And I just wanted to like go because I had just got into fitness and was like losing weight. And I just wanted to like go and see it, I guess, like an excuse really just to get away. And they had a powerlifting meet there. I'd never heard of it, never seen it, nothing. And I knew nothing about it. And I saw these people benching 600 pounds, 700 pounds, like it was like nothing. I mean, now like I know they had like bench shirts or whatever.
Right.
But, like,
Right.
You're like,
they had a little help.
Yeah, basically I was like, who are these people? And why is this so easy for them? How do I do that? And just like everyone was cheering and like, I don't know, it was just like the craziest thing and the coolest thing I had ever seen. And so I think I saw on a banner something like the word powerlifting. And I was like, gotta remember that. So like I went and like started looking up on my phone, what is powerlifting, and like found something. And at the time, like I had Instagram, I think maybe for like, I don't know, just to take pictures of my kids. I really don't know. I had it, but I don't really remember what I did on it. And so I looked it up and I found Ivy's page, the Girls Who Powerlift page. And I started looking at that. I was like, this is awesome. I knew nothing about it still. So I reached out to her. How do I get involved? Or how do I do this? And she sent me the name of like 3 different people who could be coaches. And that was, Stacy was one of the coaches on there. And so I looked at the different ones and how I felt like I would be able to like mash with them. And Stacy was just, out of the 3, she was the one who looked and performed the part like that I was most interested in being like. And she was also in South Carolina, so that was helpful. Yes. And so I reached out to her saying, hey, this is me. I want to know how to do this. And she probably like went like that and said, Jill, God bless me, because she's literally taken a ball of dough and molded an almost international elite total.
Well, but like we've met Stacy. You probably reached out to her and she was like, fuck yeah, this girl wants to get into powerlifting, and just took you under her wing and molded you into this beast.
A godsend. Yeah, no, she is definitely the only reason I've probably like been able to do this. Her and her whole team, like the whole team is phenomenal. Like
it's a special environment.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I can't say it enough. Like I wouldn't have been able to do it without her whole squad.
Well, so tell us about your last meet, because that's when we really started to hear about you.
Oh, okay. So what happened was a year ago, I had my first meet and it was a complete shit show.
Super fun. That's good. You got it out of the way.
Yeah, I got it out. I mean, got my feet wet, did did terrible. So I was like, Stacy, we got to fix this. Like, I can't just not like be good. Like, I need to fix the wrong. And she's like, hey, well, let's sign up. I signed up for another meet this summer. Hurt my back, couldn't deadlift or squat. Awesome, right? So I was like, I'm done with powerlifting. I'm not doing it. And a friend of ours, Jess, was like, no, we're doing one more. You're not quitting that easy. There's this meet. Let's do it. So I was like, you're right. Let's do it. Fuck it. So we did it and we signed up, did the meet prep, got there, and I knew like I had to do it, like do good. I had to do good. There was no like, when winning is like the only option, you make it work. So, I guess just a little comparison. That first meet was February like 25th last year, and this one was February, whatever last Saturday was, 10th. And I think I just totaled 622 last year in February, and this one I got the 810. And that was, my squat was 297, my bench was 187, and I think my deadlift was 325. So
that's awesome. And so you just barely missed the international elite total for your weight class, right?
Yeah, because I think, like I said, 132 or the 60 kilogram weight class is 811.
Yeah,
so,
that's
and after
incredible.
All the points, whatever.
So this was only your second meet?
Yeah, and it was like my quote unquote redemption for my mental state.
Yeah.
That I don't completely suck.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Thanks.
That's cool. So we heard that you have a really interesting backstory, and I think a lot of people that get into lifting, a lot of people do kind of use it as a tool to overcome things. But tell us a little bit about, tell us a little bit about your history, because it's really interesting.
As far as why I got into lifting was, I'd been, like I said, I had the history with the drugs and the eating disorder, but that was years before I actually got into fitness. I did
Let's
MMA.
Start there. Let's start there. Let's do your full story, girl. We're deep diving.
All right. So, I took you a little bit through the eating disorder, just trying to like, I don't know, for whatever reason, it seemed like being a teenage girl or preteen girl was hard. And in hindsight, now I'm like, okay. Like,
well, I mean, I went through kind of the same things. Thankfully, I never did the self-harm, but the eating disorder, that's all I remember of high school and early college.
Yeah.
Starvation like, and hunger.
Binging, and purging, yeah. So I was just never happy with myself, like, and between trying to find it in people or drugs, and I got like mixed up in like the wrong kind of people. And even in the moment, because I was never like stupid, like I graduated high school when I was 16, almost 17.
Damn, girl.
And so I wasn't that stupid or anything. Like I was smart. So like in the moment, I knew I was making these bad choices, but it was like what was making me feel fulfilled at the time. And so like I got in really deep with like the people I was hanging around, and just had a really terrible like addiction to cocaine, like, and it followed me from being a teenager into adulthood. And so like I did have to get help, or like my life was like on the line type of thing, because I had my stomach pumped, like drugs and like mixing them, like as far as like when I was high on coke, it wasn't like good enough. I would have to drink and do pills and
just
all
never
sorts of
satisfied.
things. Yeah, like I was just never satisfied. And eventually like I sobered up, and it was like it's always there. Like that's the weird thing. Like even being sober 7 years now, like it's still like a thing. Thanks. And so it's still like a thing to me, like the thought of it. But at the time, like I was maybe a year sober, and I had gotten into MMA just because I needed something to do. I had quit playing softball, I'd quit playing soccer. Like I was just small town, like I had moved to Colorado, moved back, small town again, surrounded by like a bunch of people I went to school with, but doing the same thing. And I was like, I can't do the same thing. Like I've got to do something better. So I found a gym that was doing MMA, got into that. I wound up leaving town again. Just trying to find myself, I guess, doing what I needed, like what I thought I needed to do. And I came back, got pregnant. When the time before when I had left and I was living in Colorado, I found out I had cervical cancer for the first time.
Oh my
I went
God.
through all the treatment and stuff for that. They said I was in remission. That's when I'd come back to town. I was trying to remember why I'd come back the second time to begin with. That's how great that town is. I was like, why did I come back? So, I mean, after being told like I would never have babies, all this stuff, got pregnant, big shock. So I was one of those people that I was like, yeah, I'm going to stick with fitness through my pregnancy because I'm not going to gain all this weight. And I started bleeding like while pregnant, and so I was like, oh, this is not okay. So I got told to stay on bed rest. So like I did a lot of poor, pitiful me stuff, and I gained all this weight. I wasn't working. Just food, I guess, became the new drug, and like laziness and pity and all that stuff. And then when my oldest was born, I was like, I'm going to lose the weight. And I got down to like 10, 15 pounds above what my pre-pregnancy weight was. But of course it was like from walking or from cardio or from like not eating enough food.
Right.
So it was like, I just was like, oh, I'm almost there. And I didn't see the bigger picture that it still wasn't really a healthy way to be doing it.
Right.
But
It wasn't about like self-love. It was about
it was
like you don't like what you see, so you're going to try to fix it.
Yeah, it was more of a punishment than an appreciation. Like I was punishing my body instead of doing it because of I love myself. And then when my oldest was 9 months old, I got pregnant again.
Dang.
And and then when I was pregnant with her, like I don't know what happened. Like I look at pictures and try and piece together the timeline for whatever, for fun, I guess, or just to try and figure it out. And I gained like so much weight. Like there was nothing wrong with my pregnancy, nothing. And I wound up, after she was born, she was like a couple months old, found out my cervical cancer had returned. And this time the doctor was like, you're older now, because it was a different doctor too. That helps. You're older now. You got babies. We're gutting you. Like I don't have a cervix, uterus, tubes, over. Like I don't have any of it. So, and I still have to go like I'm finally up to 6 months now. I was having to go every 3 months to get checked, but now I get to go every 6 months. But anyway, so I had the cancer removed and still in remission finally. So, when I went to the hospital that morning though, for my surgery, I'm 5'2" for this next reference. I'm 5'2". That scale said like 211 or 214 or something.
Wow. And
I was like, wow.
And you compete in the 132s right now?
Yeah. And I walk around 136, 137 usually. Like I was 136 point something miraculously this morning somehow after eating TCBY last night. Praise Jesus. 10 ounces of frozen yogurt. Like, no, I'm just kidding. So I stepped on that scale. The doctor kind of like looked at me and I was like, okay. And it kind of like in my head, I was like, there's no excuse anymore. Like I'm not sick. I have 2 babies I need to think about. Like, So, at the time, that was October. Yeah. So the weather was getting nice in like South Carolina because it's hot and humid. And that was one of my excuses forever because I was bigger. So I was like, it's always so hot and humid. And
I feel you. It is rough here.
Yeah. And like, I would just be like, oh, I'm so, nah, I can't do it. And it was hard to breathe. And I would just blame it on the weather instead of actual like my current state of being. And, but the weather was nicer. I had no excuse. I bought a double jogging stroller, put my kids in it. And I was like, this was after the healing process. I was like, we're going to see how far we can do this. And I started running, although like I learned that day I could not run to my stop sign, which is like 1/10 of a mile. And so I slowly just like worked up. I reached out to Stacy, I think that August I said, and that November I had signed up for a half marathon. So I was like, I know like strength training and this endurance training are kind of different and pulling on each other. But this is a goal I set and I got to do it. So when I started with Stacy, so I got myself from 211, 214-ish to I think 164 just through like, I had to relearn nutrition. Like my mom is overweight. My whole family is overweight. So I was never taught like, oh, hey, like don't eat like a jerk or whatever, you know, like
right.
eat normal.
Like
don't. Yeah, there you go. And so through the whole thing, I was like reteaching myself like common sense stuff, like, hey, don't eat a drive-through every day type thing, you know, like just because it's easy, don't do it. Yeah, right. It is the best. It's the best now that I can like maintain and manage it a little bit better.
Right.
But I had to learn like what a macronutrient was. I had to learn what my body needed for what I was trying to put it through. And it's probably still to this day, like one of my most powerful tools is like I had to teach myself nutrition. And so through like macro, like if it fits my macros or whatever, and cardio, like endless cardio, like I got down from 211, 214 to like 165. I think the day I hit Stacy, I was like, this is what I weigh. Let's fix it. But like at the same time, I was like, I want to lose body fat and get stronger. So let's do it. And she was kind of like, yay, yeah, let's do it. But don't you know, this is kind of hard. And like,
did you, at this point, did you know you wanted to compete in powerlifting, or was it just you had contacted her just to do some training with her?
I was like, I want to do powerlifting style training. And she's all about like, you need to experience like people cheering for you for those third lifts. And I'm like, it is what it is type of person. Like, you think I should do it? Let's do it. Like, it's not going to hurt to try. Like, so she told me what I needed to do, how to do, like how to go about getting like a membership or like a singlet or like the stuff I needed. And I was like in a makeshift garage gym at my house, like I have my 2 kids like running around and the dogs running around, and I'm squatting 225 like a mile high and bouncing, I think at the time, like 105 off my chest and ugly deadlift. Like, I mean,
whatever.
And she could just do like what she could from the videos I would send her. And I didn't know enough to be like, oh, maybe I should move the camera and she and I are like great friends now. But at the time it was like a client coach thing where she was kind of like, hey, can you try doing this instead? And like at the same time, like she was trying to understand like that I was at home doing like the best I could. And now I actually like I outgrew my garage, and like my mental state this summer needed some help. So this summer I stepped outside of my garage and actually go to a power gym here now. And since then, like my confidence and my like ability to just like let loose and focus has skyrocketed. And she's to help for that too, because she talked me into leaving my comfort zone, because even while powerlifting, I was still kind of like, okay, we're doing this. It's fine. Yeah. Nope. Not PRing anything. Like just getting in my head because nothing was getting better. I was falling back into that poor, pitiful me thing. Like why? And, it's because it's hard. It's easy to fail when my audience is like at the time 2 and a 4-year-old. Like they don't care if they don't know if I just failed a lift. They just know that I seem upset, or they know if I did good because I was happy. Like it's easy to fail when no one's watching, basically. Like,
yeah.
But going into a gym surrounded by people who are strong, or by people who either want to see you fail, because females can be petty sometimes, or like people who want to actually see you do well, because people are awesome sometimes too. And it's just that in itself is empowering. And like just has helped like immensely, like knowing that it's okay, like if I pee all over the platform at my gym because they don't care. They're just happy to see the deadlift went up.
That is a
Or-
true friend.
Yeah.
They,
Like,
like, pee all over the floor and they're like, good job. I'll go get them up.
yeah. And, or like, I think the words out of the gym owner's mouth was, it's wood. It's okay. It'll soak in.
That's
like,
awesome.
Mental note, don't lay on the platform again.
Yeah.
Next time I feel
Well,
exhausted, go to the bench.
Yeah. I think you touched on something really important, that your surroundings when training are really important, because if you surround yourself with people who they won't let you accept anything less than what you can do, that's where magic happens. And that's where sometimes on days where you don't have it between the ears that day, someone else has got your back and they won't accept you to do any less than what you're capable of.
Exactly. And that's like my biggest thing. A lot of like this weekend wasn't like, I didn't overall PR on anything, I don't think, but like I obviously meet PR and that's the total that matters. But like the mental PRs I hit this past meet were what mattered. Like I had to go in there just to trust myself, because I've always trusted Stacy. Like Stacy never puts anything on the bar that she knows we can't lift. She's not going to hurt us. She's a great coach. She's not going to be like, she doesn't get anything if we hurt ourselves. So she never like overdoes it like at all. But it's been trusting myself and my body and my energy. That's been a big thing. So once I got in there and didn't miss a rack command, or I didn't get red lighted on a squat, like my first squat or whatever, I was like, I can do this. This is fine. And I'm always like, oh, like I'm not like anyone special or anyone important. And like I had like people come up to me at the meet and be like, hey, I've been following you since you were in your garage. Like you are like on days where it's hard for me to find my reason why, like I've like logged in and Tricia King has posted blah, blah, blah. And it's always you eating something like, or you lifting something, or you with your kids, or you're doing something with your family. And they're like, it made me inspired and to go. And I was like, oh, wow. Because like, even like a dude said something and he can deadlift probably my total. And it's just like, oh, wow. Like that, like there was someone who told me right before, like right after I got done warming up for my squats, he was like, you inspired me. And I was like, oh, wow, thanks. Like I needed to hear that actually. Like, thanks. And, just because I think we get caught up in thinking we're never good enough. Like, I mean, stay hungry. Yeah. That's awesome. Like, stay hungry. Yeah. Always want to be better. But like, there's a point where being humble about being good and just like tearing yourself down,
right,
and I have problems separating that. And I think this weekend being able to like own my aggression, own my awesomeness or whatever,
you are awesome.
own the emotions that like I've compartmentalized, because I'm really guilty about that and not dealing with things when they happen.
I'm sorry. Are you me?
So just being able to own everything and it be okay, because that was like an okay environment to do that. Like, I think at one point, like I yelled before like walking up. I don't know if it was a deadlift or the squat or something, but I like yelled before I even like walked up to the platform. And like afterwards, I was like, I think I just yelled at the platform or the barbell or something. I was like, what just happened?
It's like getting rid of that self-conscious nature.
Yeah. Even just for like the few seconds you're on the platform, like it just like, I didn't realize I was an angry lifter. And I think that was my problem before too. In the garage is like, I couldn't be angry. Like I couldn't have my kids be like, why is mommy mad, or why, like, and in the gym, I can do that. I can get mad. I can go to that dark place that I need to go to and do that. And just to be able to actually apply it to a meet and see that I was able to do that and it was okay and I wasn't judged and people were like okay with it. Like that was a mental PR too, just to be able to be myself and be mad or be upset and to channel the emotion that like I compartmentalized was just like so helpful. And I was like, I have got to do this again.
Well, I think that you're touching on things that as lifters, we a lot of times process things through our training and through our lifting and through competing and like kind of resolve things within ourselves and things that happen in life. And I think that that's like being able to apply that and practice that is a really cool thing.
Oh yeah. It was definitely like just to be able to go in and be genuinely like upset and it be okay. And then like feel some weight in your hands or on your back. And as cliche as it is, like Stacey, like obviously like knows everything about me. And she was like, before I walked up to the squat, she was like, when life gets heavy, you sit down and you stand back up with that weight. Like you don't let it bring you down. And so I was like, you're right. Let's fucking do it. It's a super cliche thing that so many people say, but being able to actually apply it and feel it and conquer it is better than like the weight on the bar, actually. Like
it is. And there's a reason. And then you realize that there's a reason why people say that and why, exactly. Why it's said so frequently, because there are so many parallels between lifting and life.
Oh yeah. And like, for example, or go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I did a bad thing and I was deloading this week, but I've been punishing myself for failing my third squat because it was something I knew I should get. And I was just having a rough day. And I don't think it was yesterday, it was the day before. I went in, I was doing like my deload pause doubles and on squats. And I was like, everyone was just like lifting and they were deadlifting. And where I go, they do a lot of like Olympic lifting also. And they were doing their cleans. And this dude like cleaned, I don't know, like 300 something pounds. And like it slammed on the floor because they just dropped it. And I was like, I'm going to deadlift today. Like, and I hate deadlifts. Like that has been like the death of me, like my weakest one. It doesn't ever progress like the same as my other lift. But I was like, I'm going to deadlift today. Like I need to deadlift. And I wound up PRing, like I think 342. It was like the ugliest like thing ever. I saw stars, grinded it out.
Whatever.
But like, just like, I was like, that, I needed that. And I didn't know I needed that. But like, I felt so much better afterwards. And I like text Stacey because normally I'm like the good one and doesn't go off program or whatever.
Right.
And I was like, I did a thing and I'm sorry, but this is my new 1 rep max.
That's awesome. I used to have a coach that would say, if you're going to go off program, you at least better PR. So
yeah, exactly.
Good job.
Yeah. I think the couple times I've done it has been like to PR and not in prep for anything important.
Right.
I think October's far enough you said. Oh yeah. Oh, you'll probably add like 20 pounds on that by that point.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah, you will, no doubt. I think some of the things you said about owning your mental state and owning your actions can be back applied to your backstory, right? Like,
oh yeah,
and not being able to accept yourself for what you are, like finding out you're an angry lifter. Like for me, I was always afraid of what people might think and what kind of lifter I might be, that I was always contained within a box. And then when you were, in your eating disorder, you worry about what other people think of you and and you just can never own who you are because you're trying to change who you are for everyone else.
Yeah.
So I think it's, yeah.
Or go ahead.
No. You.
I think that's one of my biggest things. And I think that's why like nutrition is so easy for me, is it's control. My thing has been control. And every time I've done something, whether it's been like in a relationship or a sport or just trying to change, like I've noticed I had lost control for so long with eating or drugs or self-harm or abusive relationships. And just now that lifting and nutrition is like something I can like actively control. Like if I step on that scale and it says 140, then I know, okay, you did that. Nobody else did that. You had too much
yogurt last night.
Yeah, like
TCBY.
Yeah, you did that. Or like if I'm half-assing my accessories or my RP, like I'm not gauging like, oh, well, I'm kind of tired today. I'm going to give it like half-ass effort. Like, I can't be mad at anyone but me if I don't perform well when it's time to step on the platform or to test a 1 rep max. Or so having that control over it has like helped me just be like, okay, you are in control of something, like, because you can't control life. God knows that. Like, so just having something that is, it's hard, but it's easy to control or to take responsibility for.
Mm-hmm.
It's therapeutic for me because I do need to have that feeling of I'm in charge of at least something in my life, whether it's a hobby or not.
Yes.
Because I don't know, everything is just so crazy with the way the world is right now. Like, you can't control like what's going to happen tomorrow.
And you feel powerless.
Yeah. And you really do. You see stuff
things,
happen.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that could be me tomorrow. Or like a big thing is, lately was like the government shutdown. Like, are we going to be able to pay our bills? Like, so, cause I mean, if the military doesn't get paid, our bills don't get paid. So like, that was a big thing, like control. So I think just everything that goes on and feeling like when you feel helpless or hopeless, and then that makes my brain go back to like, oh, I couldn't control like drugs, or I couldn't control my eating disorder, or I couldn't control like when I was in an XYZ relationship or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to where I'm like, oh, I could go control the weight on that bar though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can control if I'm going to move it or not.
But if you think about like eating disorders, and I can't speak for drug addiction because I've never experienced that. But for me, when I was going through the eating disorder, it felt like, I mean, I knew what I was doing was bad, but it was the same thing. It was like, I can control this part of my life. Now I took it to the extreme, but I could control that.
Yeah. And like in the moment, that's how it was. I felt like, oh, this was my controlling mechanism, but like I lost control of it. And that was the same thing with drugs. Like, for drugs
quickly.
to start, like for drugs, it was I'm in control of how I'm feeling. I'm making myself feel this way. But then like everything's always taken over, and it wasn't in control.
Well, I think too. Right. Well, I think too, like when we go through things where we feel like we have zero control in our lives, and then find something that we can have control over. I think that it's really powerful, because then, especially when that leads you into a sport, because now if you want to be good, like, so you have to practice control in such a manner that it can't get out of control, right? Otherwise you're no longer going to be good at your sport. You can't go, you can't go train like 5 extra times and was planned that week. You can't let it spiral out of control, because it's no longer going to have the place that it had in your life. And I think that that's where so many of us learn self-love through training, because you learn like, well, if I want to be good, I have to make sure that I sleep and that I rest and that I eat right. And I do like put all of these things together, and suddenly you're like, I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in the beginning it was I would binge because I'd be hungry. And so I was like wanting, like, a big thing of mine, as gross as it is, was like laxatives, like whenever I had an eating disorder. And so there would be times where I would overeat, and I'd be like, I'm going to go just to Walmart. It'll be one time. But then like, luckily I do have kids, and I'd be like, okay, like I got to load them up. So that made me consciously think like, oh, if I do this though, like, I am saying it's okay for them to do this, even though like they don't understand or even know what's going on. So I wound up being like, I'm putting too much effort into being good at like maintaining a healthy lifestyle that I can't afford to like do anything that would be detrimental to like eating, or like the way my body feels or reacts. Or I mean, having kids helps though, like in the moment, just because I'm like, okay, do I want them to do this? So like, I luckily do have them to look at and be like, you know what? Nope, you can't make a bad choice right now. But no, having just the healthy lifestyle in general, I'm like, I put too much work into this to blow it over something stupid.
Yeah.
It just helps to control. Again, I guess it goes back to control for me.
Yeah. And I think just like with any sport, I think every athlete who competes will reach a point in which they're like, well, why am I doing this to myself? I feel like shit. Why did I do this to myself? And you kind of you finally reach that piece of like, yes, I could eat an entire package of Oreos, but I'm not going to because I know tomorrow that I'm going to feel like shit all day.
Oh yeah. And I don't have like ovaries, so my body I feel is very like fat sensitive, like with foods. And peanut butter is like bae to me.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you are me.
But the way my body responds to it, I guess just the way like fat helps your hormones or something. My body just soaks it all up and is like, we're gonna hold on to this. We ain't getting rid of it. So it's yeah, I definitely can relate to I'm going to eat all of this, but I'm going to feel like crap. So it's like a hangover, I guess. Like you swear it off so many times and finally you're like, you're right. I'm not going to be hungover anymore.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, so, I'm done.
Since you don't have ovaries and any of that, the hormones, are you on any type of, if I may ask, like hormone replacement therapy or?
Not yet. They said I was young enough that maybe when I start hitting like my mid 30s, I'm 27. 27? I'll be 27 in May. Sorry.
Oh my God. You are as old as me?
Yeah.
Shit.
You mean as like young, right?
Whatever. You sound like you have so much more experience than I do in this world. Like I'm this little baby and I'm like, oh, this girl's wise. She's probably in like her 30s. She sounds like she's lived. No, you are my age.
So they said I'd be good until I was like 35, mid 30s-ish. Is when they said I might, but they told me like if I started noticing any signs, to let them know, and we could talk about it. If it bothered me to let them know because they're more talking about like in the bedroom and stuff like that.
Right,
I guess.
Right. Oh yeah, all those fun signs of menopause. That.
Yeah, I mean, I do get like hot flashes, and I do, I guess, get mood swings, but I'm kind of crazy to begin with anyways. I mean, I'm a girl. We're all crazy.
A little.
Yeah. So I don't know. I personally don't feel like I've seen any of the signs other than like hot flashes. Again, like if I have like a lot of extra fat in my diet, my face will break out or my hair does like start getting like where it's coming out a little bit more frequently than when I have hit my happy zone. Like Stacy and I have like worked really, really hard on finding like a happy zone for me, so where I can get enough of what I need. So, found that happy zone and we just kind of stick with it. And if I go over, then I pay the price or whatever. Yeah. Peanut butter is worth it sometimes though. I got a lot of hair. I can lose some of it.
Absolutely. I agree completely. Well, shit, Tricia, you have gone through a lot. And it sounds like in October, you're going to be an elite international lifter.
Hopefully. I mean, I should.
But, I mean, you should. You will. Yeah. Or I'm sure Stacy will be very upset. Very upset. But if you could tell Tricia, who, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, if you could give her advice, what would that be?
To be okay with who you are because you are exactly where you're supposed to be at that moment.
I love that.
That's great. That's really good advice.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, if I could have just been happy with who I was, where I was, with what I had, I think a lot of people would just realize that life's not really that bad. And, yeah, I think I would have been able to make a lot wiser choices for my health. But then again, if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't be where I am. So
exactly.
It's a funny balance, but
yeah.
In hindsight.
Yeah, in hindsight, I would definitely just be happy with who I was, where I was at.
Yeah. I love that. So where can all of our listeners find you? Let's start with Instagram.
Instagram is Tricia King 2. And then I don't have Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or any of that. Just lame. Instagram. I know, I'm lame. I'm an old soul.
If anyone is interested in contacting you for personal training, do you do remote training at all?
I've been doing a little bit of remote training, and then I do meal prep. macro friendly. I don't advertise clean eating. I just do macro friendly. They can hit me up on Instagram, or if they're wanting personal training, they can email me at triciaking2@gmail.com.
Okay, cool. If you guys are listening and you're interested in talking to Tricia, I'll make sure to link her Instagram and her email in the description below.
Sweet.
Awesome.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for
being
coming on.
today.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you for telling us your story. Is awesome.
Hopefully it helps somebody.
It's empowering.
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of funny. We get to hear, and I love talking to the people in the industry who are big and who have really made it. But I think some of the most compelling stories come from the people who are just like us, who are in the similar state that we're at, because you realize, A, you're not alone. And B, there's someone out there who's doing something with their life who's very similar to you. So these are my favorite kind of interviews to do.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing is like when Stacy asked, are you willing to share some? I was like, if I can get through some mom's thick head that she can do it. Because I mean, I was 200 plus pounds and got down to 132, 135 with 2 kids, with being chronically ill and just every excuse in the book. I could have every excuse. Like that was my thing. I was like, if I could,
You're almost elite.
I was like, if I could inspire one mom or one woman just to get off her ass, like, then it's worth telling someone. Like, so thank you guys for giving me that opportunity to hopefully hit some mom in the head.
We are more than welcome to. We love having you.
All right, I appreciate it.